So I'm saying take out their power, take out their fortress, then we can get the little buggers inside. And just like the mainline Tea Party got co-opted by Republicans, now they don't want to go after the Fed. When it all started with Ron Paul 4 years ago, now they want to be led by Herman Cain, the former head of the Fed in Kansas City. And it's the same thing with the Democrats now. And the Fed coming out and endorsing Occupy Wall Street in a hope of blaming mainline, Main Street, and the tens of thousands of legitimate companies on Wall Street. Instead, now it's this class warfare thing, exactly what mainline Democrats want. And it makes me very, very sad because I wanted to embrace Occupy Wall Street. And I know it's a diverse group, but the people that the mainstream media gives attention are people like Michael Moore, saying, let's get rid of capitalism. That's the problem. No, the problem is monopoly capitalists that you talk so much about, these monopoly men. So what's your message to them? Am I right in what I'm saying, or am I wrong? Should I embrace Karl Marx right now on air?
Well, as you can imagine, I'm in pretty close contact with the organizers of Occupy Wall Street, principally David DeGraw, who's one of the 2 or 3 top people who brought the whole thing to life. And he and I have been talking about this lack of a specific demands for the groups. And my issue, the risk that I put forward, is that as the movement gets bigger and bigger and bigger without a specific goal, it's ripe to be co-opted. And I saw evidence of this just a few days ago when Unilever, which owns Ben & Jerry's ice cream, came out in favor of Occupy Wall Street. So that's a very bad development when a foreign corporation, in this case a Dutch company, Unilever, and they have their fake, organically driven Ben & Jerry's ice cream front, come out and start to co-opt this movement for corporate sales purposes, you're on a slippery slope down to irrelevance. And this is the problem is not having a specific goal. If Occupy Wall Street said our specific goal is to demand that Jamie Dimon steps down as CEO of J.P. Morgan and from the New York Federal Reserve Bank chair position.
Or demand a return of Glass-Steagall, or that the trillions of stolen bailout be clawed back,
Right, but I mean, those demands require a bit more process and time, whereas a regime change, like Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, I mean, once he got the message, he had to step down. So Jamie Dimon...
Yeah, so we put out a simpler demand to show the power of the movement that makes sense. Hey, step down Jamie Dimon, and by the way, we want criminal investigations.
Right. Now, people will say, well, if you take one Jamie Dimon away, 10 more like him will take his place. That's true. But you did demonstrate that the power of the group to affect the regime change, and if they put up somebody else who's like Jamie Dimon, is a financial terrorist, then he's going to have to step down too. So the regime change is a very specific goal. If you do this, then Unilever and Ben & Jerry's would not want to attach themselves to your movement because suddenly it's got a specific goal, and they themselves rely on Jamie Dimon for financing and JP Morgan for financing. So by law, their fiduciary responsibility would preclude them from being anywhere near the Occupy Wall Street demands. So this is why having a specific goal is paramount to galvanizing an action that will allow this movement to have some success. Otherwise, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it's co-opted by corporate America, and you'll start to see commercials on TV with Ben and Jerry down at Occupy Wall Street eating some new flavor of ice cream like, Occupy cream pie or something like that. Yeah, and it'll become just another part of that American fudge that just kind of permeates everything that we do, where everything's great, don't worry, Disney is here to rescue you, and it just goes down the drain.
Well, sure. Now, Max, I want to shift into some other areas. It's just for me, I tried to reach out to these groups, and the so-called leaders of it, they claim there's no leaders, but there really are Democratic Party operatives. Move on, they're all involved. And it's just the left wing of the same military-industrial banking complex. I mean, look at Obama, the wars, the torture, the extrajudicial killings, and now quoting Bush statements by his evil lawyers, as the excuse for him to act as an imperial legate. That's my next question. What do you make? Because, I predicted the Obama deception and in fall the republic that you're in 2.5 years ago, that Obama would be politically destroyed because they build him up, then he takes the blame for the agenda, a new puppet comes in, and we know that when things get into these crisis modes, the establishment, the oligarchs, the financial ruling class that are anti-free market, they like to put in puppets, build them up, and then destroy them, so they take the blame and not the corrupt plutocrats or the autocratic banksters, whatever you want to call them. And now we see Chicago Tribune, Washington Post, hundreds of major publications on the so-called left calling for him to step down in the next election and all of this. What does that signify to you that's happening with Obama? What does that signify for this whole agenda? Because then waiting in the wings is a collection of other manufactured plastic Ken dolls, Herman Cain, Mitt Romney, Rick Perry.
Well, unfortunately, it ruins the whole idea of one person, one vote, and it hides the fact that it's $1, one vote. You know, you have this plutocracy in the United States now, this aristocracy, a return to monarchy and kleptocracy. And they want people to think that the presidency is like just Dancing with the Stars or some other kind of contest show, talent show, that we want whoever's going to be up there that has the most quote-unquote talent. And so this makes the American population similar, as I see it, to what we saw happen in ancient Rome. The politicians don't try to satisfy the people or the mob with democratic initiatives. They try to appease the people with what they call bread and circuses. But what, in our experience in America, it's ultra-violence and entertainment. And
now the president's being torn apart. I was about to say that as you said it. Incredible. Were you about to say the presidents now are in the gladiatorial ring, though? Now we see them politically torn apart, so we get some petty, yeah, we dealt with that Obama.
Right. So you have, I was thinking of the extrajudicial execution of American citizen in Yemen recently. That's like a gladiatorial, event where Americans get to cheer the assassination of one of their own. Obama essentially goes in front of your point is a good one. He becomes like they throw him to the lions of the banking cartel, and then they destroy him.
So it's like the modern version of the Running Man.
Known passes are required at all times. Display passes properly. All interzone workers with day passes are reminded that curfew begins at midnight. Anyone without a valid zone card after midnight will be permanently detained. Cadre kids, don't forget, October is bonus recruitment month. Earn a double bonus for reporting a family member. ICS, your entertainment and information network, reminds you seeing is believing.
What's the #1 television show in the whole wide world? Yes!
Yes, it's called Running Man. 400 square blocks of danger, structures, demolition.
You guys want to buy a hot stereo?
Your child, happy, loving, caring.
You believe this shit? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Don't listen to it.
I worry about the kids. The network shuts down the schools. The kids are either in hiding or getting basic training. Brainwash prep TV.
We can jam the network once we find the uplink to the satellite. Then we'll broadcast the truth.
Truth hasn't been very popular lately.
Yeah, I mean, but historically, it's against the backdrop of a collapsing empire, as we saw in Rome, and the American empire is collapsing, and so they resort to this appeasement of the mob with bread and circuses, or violence and amusement. So the violence is getting more gladiatorial and harsh, and the amusement, the pornography and the gambling, and is getting more in your face. So they want.
Okay, I got to stop you there. You were the first person 5-6 years ago, even before I got you on the air, talking about a gulag economy and that you'd be paid to play video games and all these new fake currencies they'd have. And separately in my research, I knew that once they got us into a cashless society, it wouldn't be about convenience. Just like Google isn't about you learning something. It's about the system knowing what you're into, where you're going, what you're doing. You're allowed to have that service for free because they're building an algorithm on you. Well, it's the same thing with Facebook spying on you, all of this. I've been talking a lot, and this integrates with your research, about how once they get rid of the real economy and once they bring in the cashless society, Max, that the money, you'll have to pay to have your money in the bank, and you'll have to pay to use your credit card or your debit card. And now we see that happening in Switzerland. Now they're starting that in the U.S. Dozens of new bank fees. Bank of America just took the plunge first, $5 to use your credit card or your debit card. But then you're forced in this modern system into the cashless system. A lot of businesses make you take as payment automatic transfers. And so we now see what a cage this is, this cashless society where they can devalue it and you can't get out from under it, I mean, there's so many ramifications, and we're really seeing as they lay off Bank of America alone, it's over 50,000 now, just the last 30,000 a few weeks ago, 20,000 before that this year. Others are doing it. They're just getting rid of retail banking because they've got the tens of trillions of bailout money. Why should they even have customers anymore? Because they just run the government and steal all our money. Max Keiser.
Well, yeah, it's indentured servitude. It's a new cyber equivalent of it. People find themselves increasingly more into virtual debt, where they're on websites and gaming websites where they're going to swap the last few dollars that they have for virtual currency, but the interest rate will be real. And in order to pay back the virtual interest rate, they'll have to continue to play the game or click on the ads or participate in some kind of online activity which has only one political view possible. They could create a game where you plug into the game and it's all about killing Iranians, but you have to play because you need to get paid back your virtual debt. Well, by the way, at the other end of the game are real Iranians and they're really getting killed, but we won't, bother you with the details. I saw you something interesting also, Alex, which is that on the casino gulag model, you Google this for the specifics, but a town in America just recently announced that they were getting rid of all their paid firemen and they're going to replace them with prisoners as part of a prisoner release program, and they're going to pay them prison wages. And these will be the new firemen in that town. So this is another trend which we'll see more and more of. All the people that are getting fired, teachers, policemen, the government workers that are being vilified and destroyed, they'll be replaced because you need garbage men, you need teachers, you need policemen, but they'll be replaced from the prison population and making China-like wages, and they'll be plugged
So this is the new slavery. You called me 6 months ago, and I came on one of your myriad of international TV shows, and I didn't even know this till you called me. You said, I want you on about 10+% of Texans having arrest warrants out. And I didn't want to act stupid, so I went, okay, Max, sure. So I went and Googled it, and there was the mainstream news, and our media was proud of it. And the police were proud of it. We have the greatest prison population in the world. 10%, since I checked, it's like 12% now. But pretty soon, that'll be your fireman, that'll be your trash pickup. That's already going on in Texas because you'll end up having 30% of people who are basically in the prisons and the rest of us minding them. And so when you call up to get a pizza delivered, it'll be a guy with an ankle bracelet paying off his debt in a government car or some corporate car. I mean, this is a hellish thing that they are building here.
Well, look at down in Texas and also in Georgia now, a close by state, with the execution of Troy Davis.